All right. Am I live? Yes, I am live. Yes, yes. All right. Wait, hold on a second. Here? Probably better. Yeah, that's better. All right. We are live, folks. We are live. We're gonna play rapid games. Nothing new, right? Nothing new. Rapid games. Rapid games. You need to remember. Keep up with the speed. 2019, he's okay. G6. Typical bishop G7 ideas. Bishop G7. Speed though, speed. C6. C6 D5. C6 D5. Speed though, speed. So there's plenty of moves. F4, bishop E3, bishop C4. There's a lot. The E5 is met by F6. Queen D2 is met by pawn takes. So something like here. And then he castles here. We castles H4, H5 maybe. It's Queen D5. Going for this queen here. I mean bishop here. Possibly H4, H5. That seems to be the key idea. All right, let's try this. Maybe I could take here Queen G5, trade queens. We are doing it in a way that we are attacking E2 first. I mean, even if bishop here, this queen takes still doesn't work. Queen H6, so maybe he gets out of it. So this move is interesting because this doesn't really allow like Shaq on G5. I mean, I can still do this. Queen G5. And that's actually forcing a trade of queens anyway, so it may not matter. Because you cannot go here, bishop takes on H3, so we're probably gonna do it. It takes. So Queen G5 is a move. So he doesn't have H4, H5, knight F3, H4. I mean, we just kind of stop the attack. We still have double pawn though, but it's okay. Supposedly it's okay. I mean, what else is new? I mean, every single game that I play is double pawn. Double pawns is a name. It's something that I always do nowadays. So if you play here, bishop E2, knight D7, trying to get the knight F6, knight E4 even. You can still play G4, but knight E5 kind of inviting him in for no reason. Unless I have something going like G4 here, F6, knight C4. You may still eventually move a piece, right? So possibly here pinning. I mean, D5 is a move. Maybe I just takes. I mean, maybe D5 is a move. Alright, D5, maybe I just takes, H6 even. Bishop E2 is probably the best move. So if I play here, we attack here, it's just like a one move kind of thing. Maybe I could still play rook E8 with the idea of rook here. I could take, knight D7. If here, knight E5, kind of interesting. I can still play knight D7 here. This is not takeable because bishop takes E2. I guess here, knight E7 is here. C5, D6. Should I allow this? All right, let's try it. I mean, knight E5, I could just take. Okay, so he's forcing matters here. I could just simply take. Bishop takes, of course. You don't have a double pawn over here. So this possible D5, it's not that big of a move. I mean, I have knight F6. Knight F6, and I suppose, and maybe this is still going. It's still interesting for white though. Maybe he could play D5 here, assuming bishop here, and then let's say knight takes, rook takes D5. Then the the double pawn is a concern, right, on g5. I mean, here I have to be a little bit careful. Should I go for c5, d6? White is getting better here. Maybe it's king here, d5, knight e5, takes, pawn takes, and then we might have knight takes. It's hard to say, but then bishop e2. Rook d8 is also a move. c5 here. It's probably rook d8. And it could be interesting why this rook and not the other rook. So the other rook could go to e8. That's the reason why. So you could keep an option that, you know, you develop one rook, you could develop the other one. As opposed to like bringing this one here, kind of lock your rook on e8. You know, it could go to c8, but it doesn't do anything in this position. It's not centralized enough, right? So that's actually the difference. Some people ask me, like, which rook move seems to be key, like, in any kind of position. Like, between if you have the two rooks, which way should I go? There's a way, if you're able to figure out difference, you're able to tell. The big difference here for me was, you know, the rook could go to e8, which is more centralizing than the other rook being on c8 or something. So you can see that both rooks are pretty active. His rooks are also active, so maybe I could still play here with the idea. If he takes, rook takes, I would be having the open file. And I guess here d5 is still met by knight e5. I wouldn't be concerned so much about pawn takes in this line, I don't think. He'd always take here. But I don't like the idea that he goes to e7. Because if he goes to e7, that kind of like... all activity, it's going to be for white because you get the other rook involved. And then it's going to be like he's trying to get to the 7th rank fast enough and have some more control over like this area over here. So we'll probably have to do this. Maybe just, well, pre-move it just in case he takes. I don't think he will, but, you know, there's always like waiting moves. Maybe c3. You don't have to commit to anything. c4. c4 is interesting. I don't like c4 because obviously d4 could be weakness. I mean, c4, that's the reason why c3 is good enough. d4 was not a weakness here, but c4 could be allowing d4 as being a weakness, meaning that, you know, knight f6, if I were to take here, and then maybe d4 is hanging. That's one line. So knight f6 really looks appealing to me now because we are attacking on d4 in a certain way. And if he takes here, we just say, well, we dominate. We're dominant on the open file, right? So that seems to be a good idea, but maybe he could play d5. My concern is actually d5. Suppose I could take. All right, we're gonna do this. So now I was threatening to take, he took right away. I don't think the knight take makes a lot of sense because of d5 in this line. Okay, here, d5, maybe. King c2, okay. Bring the king involved. There's also h5. Let's try h5. Maybe I have g4. g4 is actually a threat because if he takes here, the bishop has nowhere to go. That's actually a threat, so he cannot play here g4. I mean, he could play d5, but he might be risking losing a piece. So g4, pawn takes, pawn takes. The knight is still on f6, so it supports the pawn on g4, and the bishop has nowhere to go, right? Bishop e2, rook takes e2, bishop e4, knight takes. g4 is interesting. It must be the only move, though, it feels like. Because that's stopping, like, it is stopping g4 for black, right? So he's playing g4 himself. I'm not sure if the audio is good enough. I don't know if anybody could confirm that'll be great. It could be too loud, it could be too low. It depends. It depends on the day. So g4 is interesting. Maybe it's even h4, keeping the pawns on light squares. Maybe that's a good idea. You know, this is actually a weakness. Where I always tell people, like, honestly, like if you push pawns, that could give you weakness. So f4 is actually a weakness, but if you're able to take control over it, if you cannot, then it's maybe it's okay. I just have to move fast because I am seeing that I might lose on time by default because I'm talking, but maybe just have to do a lot of like speedy moves. You could still play d5. Then get the king involved. Is it b5? Takes, b6. Because here, b5, he's attacking on b7. Alright, here. Supposedly here, rook e1, take on f2. He takes his rook takes. I'm actually threatening to take on f2. e5, I could take on c5. Yeah, this feels like a little bit passive, but that's the only way to play. But he's counting on the pass pawn, e4. All right, we go here. If he takes, rook takes. So he's counting on d4 being a pass pawn. I have a6. Double pawns. Like, I have two double pawns here, but it's actually good for black because now it's like he fixed one of the pawns. Oh, I didn't see that, actually. Wait, did I have to take... Did I have to do, like, yeah. I had to be careful about taking. Alright. Didn't see that because of the clock, but... Okay, let's see if I could hold this. It's probably... f3. Okay, that's interesting. Here, and then he might do rook e1, of course. Then rook e5. The knight is stopping f5. And now it's a mess. Supposedly here in rook e7. Yeah, rook b6. Wait. I felt like it could go off with the f pawn right away, but... I mean, he might be still winning, yeah. He's still winning. Yeah, that would do it. That would do. Yeah, that would do. Yeah, I blunder here. I mean, I was better, to be honest. I was better, I suppose. Not here, of course. I was better around... Oh, he's better here. So now this is shifting toward black, like after b6. So 94 is still okay. It's still draw, but I think... Oh, this is a mistake. So maybe I just had to play like a b6. The computer wants me to play b6 and I could see why. If this were to happen, you just take, and then you're looking at, you know, stronger knight. I'm still like up a pawn here. Yeah, I'm still up a pawn. There's another line where bishop takes, supposedly take, king e3, and then b takes, and then king e7. This is still draw, which is interesting. Because supposedly now you could take on e4. Good game though, but it's just the time I was just playing fast. I was playing slow, I mean, and then I started playing fast at the very end. We are below 24 again. Takes. This is a line that I always play, this opening specifically. So I could take on d5, knight c3, d5 usually a big issue. g3, bishop g2, h4 even. So now I'm attacking d5. Knight c4 maybe, but d5 could be hanging. Knight f4, could I go for this? So we get rid of the bishop here, which is great for white. So it doesn't matter what he does here, maybe here. It's not that big of a deal here. f5 is kind of questionable. f5 blocks the bishop on e6. There's no reason for that. Actually, this is a terrible move. I mean, you don't block your activity with bishop like this. f5 is just like, you know, I'm pleased to see that. Knight b3 is a move though, but attacking b2, it could be like a one move thing. Should we go for this on bishop here? Some kind of an attack. He's probably gonna play knight c4. You don't want to always do you don't want to block your piece's activity at all. This is, you know, like, you would never when you have this kind of diagonal, like you don't voluntarily play f5 to. I mean, I was not going to f5 myself. Like, doesn't even make sense because you could take. The knight is still on d5, defending. The knight on b6 still defending d5, so it's not like I was threatening this. You could take it. This is still defended. There was no need to play f5. What did he do? He did here. Okay, so I could even move my bishop like different diagonals now. Like I'm not obligated to like stay on f3. I could play here, go for d3. This is still gonna be knight c4 actually. Knight c4. Okay, we just play here. You could even do f6, which is funny, which actually it's a way to get the bishop on f7, right? So the bishop doesn't do anything on e6. He makes us consider moving the queen, bishop d7 or something, like bishop gets to c6. Maybe the bishop belongs there, but it does not belong at e6. Like, it's kind of blocked by its own pawns. And if this happens in your game, you have to find a way to get your piece activated. Like, if the pawns are blocking the way, you just push the pawn. Obviously, pushing the pawn is not a key situation here for him. You cannot play d4, f4. If the pawns are blocking the way, you may have to move pieces, or you move the same piece elsewhere. Like you have to move the bishop in a better square. And you know, it's funny that if you move like in this line, let's say it's black to if it's black to move, he may have to lose a turn like queen e7 and then move the bishop, and then d5 might be hanging. So there's a lot of things to consider. Queen e2, defending here, I could take. So it's defending b2, nothing else. And also connecting the two rooks. I mean, that seems to be key. Something like here, bring the other rook. Attack on g7. It's not really, like, achieving much, but I may just go for, like, some kind of an attack. Why not? He doesn't have queen b5 or anything. The knight is sitting here. It may be b5. Maybe it's b5, b4. This is the only way to get for activity. Because obviously b5, b4 would require where this knight is going, right? It would require some precision how to defend. It's interesting what to do here. It's maybe b3. That's 93 though. Doesn't look very optimistic for me. Maybe it's queen d2 and bring the knight to e2. And then maybe you reroute the knight. And instead of being on c3, maybe you want it on the king side. And that means, you know, since I'm attacking, right? Sometimes chess is about common sense, you know, sometimes, not all the time. So sometimes the knight is sitting on c3. It's not doing anything except really attacking d5, but it's not like it's going to take it. It's the bishop is okay on f3. It could be, you know, maybe the bishop belongs on d3, but f3, d3 is okay. But the knight on c3 may be questionable. He did b5, yeah, so he's probably tuning into my stream. B5, the idea is b4, and the knight is going where? I mean, that's the biggest question to ask. Maybe it's b3, knight e3, queen d2, in order to get the knight on e2, right? We may have to be concerned about some rook c2. It's not that trivial. It's maybe even better idea. This better idea, we talk about the knight going to better square, so maybe it's like b3, knight e3, queen d2. If he plays b4, I could play knight e4 and going to c5. So I mean, this may actually be a better square on c5. But in order to get to c5, I have to like prepare it. So this means I have to play like b3, which attacks the knight. It's actually interesting where this knight is going. Maybe he may have to like precisely play here, because if he went over here, b5 is hanging. So I could even do like knight takes b5. So that's the reason why I say knight e3. So b3, knight e3, defending b5, and continue attacking on b4, where the knight, he probably want, you know, black wants to see the knight being on d1. And also b3, knight takes c3 is not an option, just in case people are saying, well, if you take with the pawn is rook takes, you do take with the queen. So b3, take with the queen, you defend on c3. So rook takes c3 is not an option. The queen is defending the knight in this line. But, you know, it wouldn't be surprising if you play knight e5, though. Maybe it's he wants to take on c3. But we'll just do b3. Maybe here I just take. But if he had take here, this may help his bishop get at, back to the game somehow. Maybe I have to allow knight takes f3. Should he play knight e5? He's probably going to play knight e3 anyway. Because knight here, I cannot really take here, perhaps. Because if you take here, it's knight takes f3. So that's still complicated. Knight a3, that's actually the good move. There's also queen b2. It's hard to say which way. Queen b2, queen d2. It's probably queen d2, more centralizing. b2 doesn't feel like the queen is active in this line. At least here I have, you know, more squares to go to. There's actually queen d2. It's also when he plays b4, knight e4, I'm attacking b4. That makes a lot of sense, as opposed to here, I'm not attacking b4 in this line. But in queen d2, I am, right? Should he plays b4. So knight e4, knight c5 is an idea, and also queen takes b4 is... There's knight c2, though. Maybe knight c2. Because you take here knight c2, there's... he's attacking both the queen and the rook. But it's always good to keep an eye on this pawn, like takeable pawn. I mean, I may just move the rook on e1 and then maybe threatening to take on b4. So if he plays b4, it's knight e4. And that's the idea that knight going to c5 is actually pretty bad for black to allow. So maybe he just have to consider like a6, but the knight is going to be like on a3. What's the situation with the knight on a3? Is it going to be active? It's going to be inactive for the next 20 years. So he plays rook c7. That's actually maybe an interesting move. So if I play knight e2, I'm gonna get hit by rook c2. That's for sure. He's probably wanna do this kind of stuff. And so if I go here, he goes here, maybe knight e2 in this line. There's still rook c2. I suppose I could take here queen e5. The knight could go to e2 or g3. So there's no longer a situation that I could go to c5 because he's not going to play b4. I mean, he's not going to be welcome to do this. So maybe I have to play the rook here and go for the knight the other way around. It's still concerned about d5, and still the bishop on e6 is still questionable, right? It's not like it's actually a difficult position. Because if I'm playing black, my concern would be like how to get this bishop activated like fast enough. He's delaying it for the longest time, and sometimes when you delay moves like this, you could pay the price for that. Like, since you know, you just have to find a way to get the bishop in the game. Like the bishop probably belongs on b7 at this point. If you visualize the bishop on b7, that it's still, you know, inactive on the b5 and b7, but it still have the purpose of defending on d5 in a better way instead of e6. So he plays here, so maybe I'm committed to do this. Maybe rook c2. I could just take here, queen b4. He's not going to take the knight, the bishop is defending it. But then queen b4 is really attacking his knight. There's also queen e5, so it's still good for white. If he takes, then the issue is going to be rook c2. All right, so I also have queen b4, but I guess he's going to trade a lot of pieces here. e2 is hanging. It's takes. Here, knight c3, and then a2, a3 is hanging. So I may have to do this. If he goes for this, knight c3, and that might be a blunder by him, perhaps. Maybe it's a5, but the idea of knight c3 is actually the knight would be hanging as soon as you move, let's say, b2, queen takes c3. Maybe he has to play knight c2, though. Rook c2, rook c2. I mean, knight c3, rook c2, I take, rook takes c3, so maybe he's okay. Maybe, just maybe. Suppose here, rook c2, maybe bishop d1? This is a trick. I mean, I'm allowing him to take on f2 because knowing that this is hanging. So this is a defense, so that I take here, he takes here. But there's a nice tactic here. Maybe here, rook c1. There's no way I could take here, man. Maybe I could try queen e5 with idea take, maybe some mating ideas. He took on here, but he doesn't seem to. This is hanging though. Hmm. Forgot about this is hanging. It's hanging for sure. All right, so we can let him take. E3 is gonna be hanging as well. I'm defending here, but the rook situation. I'm actually down 2 pawns, which is fantastic. I don't know. This is still double edge, maybe a6. The rook might be slightly trapped. I mean, there's maybe king g2. I mean, let's say he plays e6, maybe king g2, and then the rook is actually trapped. So may have to be careful. Like, let's say he plays here. What is my approach, actually? Like, how he could continue playing this down to 2 pawns. Yeah, so this is a queen c6. Maybe I still trap it, though, right? The rook is trappy. He probably forgot about this, that the rook is actually trapped. He had to play like rook f2. You always need to keep an eye on tactics. Like, tactics always exist, right? So maybe here, here, and then he takes on e3. So this is still... still good. c1 is the next move. I want to take on c3. Yeah, once this pawn falls, he's going to be... He has this fantastic bishop that we all bragging about. Wouldn't be surprising if he goes for this or bishop e6. But by the time he gets his bishop activated, he's down in exchange. Right? So f6, I don't understand this move. The reason is I could just play here. Maybe it's queen here. He wants a draw. Maybe. Now I understand the move. All right. Maybe defend the draw. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Keegan? How's it going? 1 minute left. Thank you for the gift. Queen g6. Queen g6. What to do here? Yeah, perhaps here. I'm still looking at rook takes. So the queen may be out of play now on g6. Like, he doesn't have like any more checks. Like, now the bishop moves, I could take. How's it going, Keegan? Rook takes is the move. Yeah, once this rook lands on c3, that's trouble, because now the rook goes to c7 up in exchange. We have this. He has a fantastic bishop on e6. It's being blocked by its own pawns. So even if he goes for this, it's... I mean, the ideal square here, sometimes you have to visualize what is your opponent best approach. Like, the best move for the bishop is e4. So if you know this by fact, you do have to be careful not allowing like some kind of bishop d3, bishop e4. So he plays here. That's a reasonable move. Stopping here. Maybe the rook goes over here. He's probably gonna go queen e8 somehow. It's still difficult, actually. It's not easy. Queen e8. So here, h4 could be weakness, which it is weakness at this point. He got his bishop to f7, and I could see... I don't understand why he's doing this. Like, the bishop doesn't belong here. Maybe he was concerned about d5. Like, could be attacking the... Oh, maybe he wants to here. Maybe I'm not paying attention. Bishop h5. Could I take here? I'm great. I'm great. Just finished some more puzzle. Nice, nice. I could do the best. Nice. Puzzles are good. So now he's in a passive land. I mean, what is queen h6? So now he's very passive, though. The bishop, even though gets to h5, now the best ideal square is here. We talked about here, right? Bishop e4. So now I need to avoid it. I mean, here I could take. But he's going to play queen here, but this is a mate on g7. So here is mate on g7. So I could play b4 here as a stick. So I have everything covered. It's funny that I could sack in some line. Like, I could even sack in some line here, and I still win the game, depending on how fast my pawns are moving. Like, he would love to play queen h5 to complicate the game. He wants to play bishop f3, but it's way too late here. The rook is dominant here. Just, you know, that checkmate on g7. So that means that, you know, black has nothing here, but except a couple moves. He cannot even push the pawn as a pin. I mean, it's hard to say what to do, like here, maybe on g5. Just possibly here. But then the pawns are moving, like. Here as a stake, it's the same concept. Same issue. How is audio? Is audio good? Is it too loud? Too low? I mean, this is really resignable, but he just maybe wants to try a couple moves. There's also king h2 if I want to do this, but that's the fact that I'm hitting on g7 and the rook is sitting on e7. It's just too much. There's not much you could do. This also acts like a way of counter, you know, like I have a piece, like I actually have an exchange, but it's a rook at e7 is pretty annoying as hell because he's still attacking the same time. Like I'm stopping all his threats. If he just play rook e8, for example, then he may claim that queen h5 and then try to get some play. But he's trying something here, but obviously it's a waste of time here, b6. So then I play something like here, so I'm supporting b7. Not sure what this bishop is going to do, but still the main idea. Now I could take here. I could have probably took on g7. Yeah, like... He's looking for some kind of stalemate that it doesn't... This king here, though. Checkmate is coming. Checkmate came. That's the only resource that he had. Like, oh, that's the only way. There was a, if you take the queen, right? There was a stalemate, I suppose. The London. Wow. The London. All right, so it's potential e5. I'm not even sure if e5 is a good move here. Maybe. You try it. He's gonna take now. He's going to take. Oh wow, he went back to e3. Wow, that's a move. I don't like it though. I don't like the move. Maybe bishop g4, and I'm putting some pressure on d4. I mean, it's putting pressure on d4. So maybe this may require him to play d5. Maybe it's bishop here, queen e4. All right, let's do it. Maybe something like this, but I don't believe it. Could still take here, here, here will be 8. Then we have b2. Then we have some play. Here, so maybe I could consider taking in between moves here, so the knight goes here. He's probably going to take with the pawn, I feel. But take with the pawn is interesting. It's not a bad idea. So just keeping the idea, keeping the option open for the queen to go to like b3, e4. That's the reason why I take with the pawn. He took here, so we have to move here, lining up for f5. Bishop d3 may be the move. If you play bishop e2, it's f5, I suppose. You just go after the center. Which is the point of the modern defense. At some point, you have to strike on the center. You cannot let this kind of stuff happen. Like, at some point, some kind of a break, f5. He plays here, but still f5, I suppose. This bishop check, c6. Actually, what happens if he check me on here? And is maybe a6 first? Maybe avoiding the check and then f5. You may have g4, which is fantastic stuff could happen here. G4. So a4, it's okay. I don't mind. I'm not going to b5. I'm going to f5. I mean, I don't think you understand the idea, but when I did f5, if I were to play f5 instead of a6, like around here, he may have some weird like pawn takes. And then if he take with a knight, this bishop b5, which forcing my king to go to like the f8, because I cannot really block with c6. So that's the reason why I had to play a6 to stop b5. Quick a4 was not really necessary because I was not going to b5 anyway. Sometimes people, they come up with the wrong ideas. And, if you come up with the wrong idea, you don't understand what your opponent's trying to do, it could really hurt, like, depending on the position, right? So bishop g5 is, like, putting some pressure here. I don't understand bishop g5 because if he were to take, I'm not going to take with the queen because if I take with the queen, his pawn takes f5. And then here and queen takes f5. But the problem is here is knight takes. And then I could castle and claim that the rook on f8 is pretty strong. Open file perhaps coming in. So maybe h6, claiming to say, well, this bishop is waste of time. Should he take his knight takes? Which it feels like bishop is like... you could argue that what else that he had? Maybe he's like g3, perhaps? And maybe he had to do this, but because of he has to take, like maybe he's committed to take. So I'm supposedly maybe take here and then some kind of bishop move, like bishop d3 after take on here. Yeah, so you don't want to take with the queen because still this is still pending, still happening. So with a knight. But black position is getting really attractive now. Like that's the fact that I'm castling here, lining up for the the rook at f8, opening up this possibility. That's actually not a good sign for white. Which makes the modern defense really tricky opening. I mean, you could look over that. The reason I sometimes tell students to play it is because it's easy to play and it could get really tricky because people doesn't see it coming. And you could play it against everything and it's very solid. It's not really... I mean, it's solid and also has some dynamic stuff into it. So he plays bishop d3. I predicted this move. This should be reasonable. Now I could castle, which is actually... That would be interesting because maybe I have stranding pawn takes here. Rook f4, even. d5 could be hanging. So he went out of the way, so you probably have to go like miles away now because pawn takes was a move. Probably lining up for knight f3 though. I could still take though. If knight takes, maybe take on d5. So it's maybe bishop takes, knight f5. The pawn is blocking access to the bishop though. Maybe I should not allow this. But also my bishop on g7 is not open up. So that's actually a choice. I also have f4. Maybe it's f4. If he castles g5, go for some kind of an attack. Put the knight on g6. We're gonna play f4. I'm not sure if it's the best move, but I mean, maybe you could even castle here and claim that life is good. He's probably gonna castle here, which is funny. Maybe it's b5. They also castle here. I mean, suspense. What do you guys think? Castle short or long? May not castle at all. Maybe he's just gonna play like some kind of like a pawn move, b4 or something. It's hard to say what he's gonna do. Oh, castle long. Oh, didn't I predict this? Like he's gonna castle long. Yeah, it makes sense. Wish I had a knight on c5 though. If I play here, it's suspense. Alright, we're gonna do it for fun. It should be good for black, though. Maybe it should be. Open up the rook, potential attack. I mean, sometimes you could sacrifice pawns, right? Yeah, in order to get some kind of an attack. I mean, you know, white is castling in the desert at this point, so the desert is open. We may have to find a way to dig in, right? It's hard to say what he should be doing. Like probably castle here was okay, but then you have g5. What are you supposed to be doing? This move is wicked strange. Is it g3? Should I be worried about? Like, I don't even know. And he's leaving this for me to take, and I could still play e3, c6. There's like tons of options here for black, and even c6 looking really strong. If he were to take the knight, join the party, that, you know, and there's also b4 even. b4 maybe allowing knight c4. Maybe this is not necessary to give him. I mean, here you could argue that knight c4 anyway, but this opens up for potential, like, attack. I may have to do this. I'm gonna take, see what happens. You could play knight c4, then the rook gets in the famous g3 that he's trying to do. But actually here, this is actually not a biggest issue. If he takes here, this is actually should be good for black, because then the bishop joined the party, right? I mean, I would love to see this happening, because the bishop would get activated. I mean, it's already being shut down by my pawn at e5, so this is only going to help black. Rook here, he could still take on e6, but let him do it. Let him take. And if he were to take here, that's not a good choice. And that's the reason why I don't understand rook g1. I mean, if his idea is based on g2, g3, takes on f4, and he's thinking that the rook is really attacking here, that's kind of like delusional, kind of an idea. I mean, this has to be good for black. Now you could see this is really huge. I mean, just like an a3, almost like winning. If it's black to move a3, it's simple as that, right? Should you take, you're getting hit by knight, bishop takes c3, and the attack is just going to be justified for black now. There's also c6, the queen could join the party on e5. I mean, this feels like it's borderline losing at this point. We could check after the game if I'm on the right track. You don't do this kind of stuff. You don't. So it's sometimes like ideas. Like, is your idea is good or bad? It could be bad, right? He's still gonna play h5. It's not threatening at all because there's g5. I mean, I could put a wall here and say, well, you have nothing. c6 is maybe the strongest move, but this may allow bishop c4. My concern is bishop c4 in some line. May not be, because now may justify his h5 ideas. c6 here, my plan is just the queen gets involved. But I may not need the queen. I mean, need it later, but not now. So e3, now it's like I'm putting some pressure on here right away. I mean, his king is like, I don't know. Doesn't feel like it's safe on c1. The only drawback for black is the knight is sitting on here. The knight is not moving. I would rather have the knight on e5 or c5. It's not happening. But also the knight is stopping g6, like rook takes here. So the knight is maybe useful defense-wise. I mean, maybe it's okay here. I may not need it to go to c5 or e5 to win the game. This may be winnable enough. Some kind of an attack. The queen gets involved. You don't need to depend on the knight. I mean, that's where exceptions in chess plays a role. Like, you know, like all pieces has to be activated. But there are sometimes exceptions in chess where you could play with an inactive piece and you could still win a game, right? I always tell people to play active pieces, but there are some exceptions where active pieces, you could throw it out of the window, right? If you have checkmate ideas. Knight c4 is delusional move. I mean, this is supposed to defend somehow. Like, now c6 is a real idea. I mean, I could see that he's going for this, but I could just take first before we even. And then c6 is a real move. I don't have to worry about bishop c4 because now he doesn't have time. I mean, maybe knight takes. This bishop takes. It's hard to say. King b1, I guess. It's king b1. Maybe you have to do a lot of praying now. Bishop takes c3, h5, g5. I may have to play here, actually. King c2 is a move, I suppose. King c2 maybe is a move so he could defend c3, but this is not ideal way. Ideal position. This maybe c6 takes d5 even. Maybe opening up, get the knight now into a more Active situation. Wow. I mean, the moves are coming in like in a very weird. This is f3, and we'll probably play the easiest c6. He's defending c3, but wouldn't it be better to be on c2, right? Instead of, I mean, he wants to play here, but. All right, we take. Now the knight gets involved. There's maybe queen e6. All right, we just play here. Lining up for knight takes. It doesn't matter if he takes on b2, I don't think. Now the knight is actually getting active, right? We talked about the knight doesn't have to be active at all, but look at this. The knight is going to f5. Its potential going to d5 in some line. Queen here. This move doesn't do anything. There's rook f6, I suppose. And then maybe taking on f. He may just resign soon, actually, the way he's playing. Rook f6, gaining a tempo. We just attack the queen. You have to go back somewhere. This is how we defend? Okay. Potentially, it's... hard to believe this is going to defend for him. All right, let's see. Oh, he wants to do something like this. Oh, wait, I could just take here. Oh, that's one way. This is one way to do it. I mean, the reason I did not even consider it because I knew this move is wrong in the first place. And yeah, you just take this way. Yeah. Yeah, here it must be like totally losing. This is actually my last game for today, but it's an instructive game to explain though. Yeah, here is like already lost. It tells me there's a bunch of moves like rook b3 even. My move wasn't that great, but it's still winnable enough. So let's go for this, like here, this position over here. So here it's funny that it likes white because after king c2, it feels like maybe white has some dynamic stuff here. But now once you play here, it does love black position, right? The evaluation bar. Oh my bad, I had it off. So around here, once he plays this move, he was doing okay, but once he played here, it's bad. And you could see why it's bad, because taking on f4 is not ideal, just like I mentioned. Now, when you do this, the computer now is screaming. It doesn't like this move at all. As a matter of fact, my move is not that best. And the computer's in this kind of stuff, and I could see why. I could just go for e3. That's once you go for this, it's like c6. So the idea is queen e5. You just go for an attack. You just ignore the fact that the pawn is on f4. And that's this whole idea is collapsing for white. I mean, it doesn't save him. So here he had to play like more precise. I actually want to see if castling is a good move. Yeah, it's actually here for me. It wants me to play c6, and I actually happens to agree with this assessment, like with the computer, because this feels like it's direct towards the center. I actually love this move c6, and I'm not sure why I didn't pick up this move fast enough. Because the reason, if you let's say you take, then it's like here, black is actually controlling the center. It's not even white anymore. Let's say he plays f3, then you're looking at d5. That's actually the reason this is really strong. Once you control the center, you could take shards on the center. That's going to be good for you if you're able to do it. That's the reason why c6 is huge. It tells me c here and c4, but this still feels like it's good for black. I mean, c4 might be the only move. Then b5. That's something like... It wants me to play like here, here... And then castles, and this is still good for black, even though it's equal. I suppose this is actually good for black in the long term. Something like here, and then h7. I still like to take black here. Just because the computer's saying is equal doesn't mean that you're going to play it equal as a human perspective, right? from humans' perspective. So f4, yeah. F4 maybe the reason is not it's not the ideal move. Maybe you have to play like something like this, like let's say king h8, and then you're probably looking at some kind of g4. Actually, g4 here is ideal because if you take, then you open up more lines. Now this may be justified, yeah. Yeah, so f4 is not the best by me. It's the reason f4 also may not be the best move is because your bishop doesn't really, like, you're not solving the issue. You just play f4 and you're not doing much. So he had to do a lot of moves. But once you castle here, it's okay. If you castle here, the computer doesn't like it much because he could still like find a way to attack. It's funny that b5, he could still comes on top. Yeah, I wasn't really sure about it, but it feels like he could play this. And let's say queen c8, king c2, and he's actually okay, which is funny. King c2 is good defense. You know, just simply play chess, you claim a pawn, and then you're fully defended. You know, you're not here. After here, it's just like a simple b4. Yeah, I think I would rather be white here, of course. You know, that, you know, bishop cover all the key squares. He's even rookie one. f4 now, you can see he's not doing anything, even though, you know, you're expending on g5, maybe g5, g4, like g5 or something, but it's not going to do anything. It's actually a good game, though, instructive-wise. But here, yeah, here I was better somehow. I mean, it doesn't like... It wants g3. This is something that I was talking about, like bishop g5 is not the ideal move, g3. And the idea is g3 is simple, you're not really committed, you're stopping f4. Because actually, if you were to play bishop d3, it is f4 winning a piece. That's actually the issue. So g3 was maybe a better move with the idea as you stop f4, let's say knight f6, maybe then we play bishop h3 or something like that. And bishop h3 is actually interesting if you were to play this. I mean, this is a computer online, but this looks pretty scary, though, for me to allow because e6 is weakness. I would be concerned about this. And then I'm still not castled here by black. This is tough. So here I have to play like slow again. And so once something like here, I just have to castle. I mean, I still like black here, to be honest, even though the computer does like this position, but it's... You also have to know that Stockfish here, it's not that, you know, you may have to give it some time. Maybe in the next half an hour, the evaluation bar goes low. It's not, you know, sometimes it overestimates some positions. I mean, it could be like plus two or something, and not necessarily like +4. But 0.4. All right, folks, we'll just keep it at that for today. You know, we are back to 24, right? I'm still consistently up, you know, up to 2,400. You know, the Blitz rating is, you know, I don't normally do Blitz in YouTube now. I just normally do like educational stuff. So the Blitz is still going to be on Twitch. I still do Twitch. I did a collab yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? The day before was Simply Divina. It was Blitz games, Bull games, more collab maybe. I'm just looking forward for like Eric Rosen again. Where are you, Eric Rosen? You know, still Nakamura in the making. I'm not sure, but you know, I'm still like looking for more collab with different people. There's also collabing in like playing, you know, like rapid games. This is something that I'm trying to push as well. Not doesn't have to be Blitz, you know. Capable to play like, you know, I hyperbullet myself. You know, I played 10 seconds before, so so I can play different time, you know, different time controls. And I think rapid is more interesting because there's more time to explain the moves. And when you do it with another streamer, it's more fun because everybody was, you know, sharing their syncing process instead of in Blitz game, right? So this is something that I'm trying to do, pushing, you know, to do some kind of commentary with another streamer live, you know. It's probably on YouTube or Twitch, doesn't matter. All right, folks, I probably need to get going. I'm going to be back tomorrow, perhaps. I try to stream every day for people tuning in. We need some support. We need some viewers. I try to stream every day. It's Twitch, YouTube, YouTube, Twitch, and vice versa, right? And lead chess, I do lead chess, I do chess.com, so it could be anything. Or, like streaming outside, that's also something that I do. So for now, we're gonna stop here, and I'm gonna be back tomorrow. Maybe we are heading toward lead chess tomorrow. I've been heavily doing chess.com, but it's, I'm still streaming both sides. All right. Thank you, Keegan, again for the gift membership. It's always good to have you here, and everybody else. Hopefully you guys learn, you find it enjoyable, and we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow, perhaps. All right. Good night, folks. I will see you guys later. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Keegan, again. See you, folks.